Gee, the last time I stood up here, I was with Ray. Anyway, I need that boy. Anyway, but the Lord is always with me, and I'm so grateful. And I'm so happy to be here with y'all. I had occasion, everybody knows who Barbara Anderson is, I believe. And she called me one day and she says, you know, there's an ex-witness in your town, and she would like to get a hold of you. And so I finally got a hold of her on the telephone, and she came over, and she had been out of the witnesses for 30 years. And her father had been the city overseer, and her mother had been first lady. And I don't know if you know about elders' wives who think they're first ladies, but she was one to end all first ladies. And if you were from Boston, you'd say, she is a hot ticket. And she knew it. And so she and I, we knew each other, but she was like up here, and my husband was only an elder down here. But this young lady that had been out of the witness, she came to my house. She talked to me, and she asked a lot about people that we'd known through the years. And she said, I still have nightmares. She said that the Paradise book with those people falling down the ravine, and you know what kind of a book it was. And it does. It gives little kids nightmares. And she said she still had them. And so she says, would it be okay if I brought my husband back and talked to you? Because I'd known him since he was a little boy. And so we talked, and we met several times. And finally she came one day and she said, I don't have nightmares anymore. And I had given him a copy of Crisis of Conscience and given him a lot of other tapes, Lawyer McGregor's tapes. And so she told me about her mother, because I had asked about her and she didn't say too much about it, but she said, my mother had brain surgery and she's had a stroke, and she has very limited vocabulary, almost none, but she can print with her left hand. She still lives alone and has help that comes in. And she says, I buy her groceries and all that. And I said, I took care of my mother, Michelle. I took care of my mother for 6 years with a stroke. And we played guessing games of what she was saying. And so I said, maybe I could talk to her. Would it be all right if I went to see your mother? She says, well, I'll ask her. So she asked her mother, and her mother said that she would like, yes, she wanted me to come. So I took the cookies, and we went to have coffee and talk to her mother. And I walked through the door, and she put a death grip on me. I mean, she grabbed me and she cried and she hugged me, and she said, oh boy, oh boy. Now, when you have a stroke, sometimes there's just a little phrase that sticks with you, and you can say that. Some people, even that never would curse after they have a stroke, that's all they can do is curse. Did you ever hear of that? Oh, I went through this with my mother, and I saw this lady who was trying to teach people to talk. And I don't want to get too far off the track, and I don't want to take up all your time here. But she just kept hugging me and hugging me. And so I started talking to her about Jesus. And the lady that bathed her every morning and took care of her, she was a born-again Christian. And I said, I'm going to send you 2 Bibles. She had gotten rid of everything. No more witness anything. She was no more anything. And so that wasn't good. And so I said, I'll send you these Bibles, and I'll call you every once in a while, and we'll go over some scriptures. And she could read, and I could tell you where she could look and everything. And finally, after several times, when I would hang up, she would say, "I love you." And what I really wanted her to say was, "I love Jesus," and she finally did. And her grandson took her to church with him. She never would go to church or anything. And after she came to my house for lunch one day, more cookies, she came to my house for lunch, and we saw Lori McGregor's tapes. We saw Chuck Love's tape, the one he did, Gene, you know the one, on Dave Reagan's program. And she was ready to, just do it right then. And we were gonna have the wine and the bread, and she was gonna do it for the first time. But she got really just frazzled out, too much excitement, and she had to go home. But the grandson started taking her to church, and she went forward and gave her life to Jesus. So that's a happy ending. I'm happy about that.
That's great.
You know how long-winded I am. Why don't you come up here and tell me?
No, a story like that, a testimony like that, is beautiful.
Okay, we'll talk some more, sweetheart.
All right, thank you.
And if I can still fly, I'll be here next year.
All right. Only let me know when you're coming. She's an angel, all right, but not the apostasy.